So imagine logging into your bank account and just seeing a new business loan sitting there for $100,000.
I mean, I definitely wouldn't complain.
Right. But the terms are what really get you. You have a full 100 years to pay it off.
100 years, that's a generous term.
Yeah, but here's the real catch. You won't even be the one making the payments.
Because I'll be dead.
Exactly.
Mm.
Long after you are gone, your artificial intelligence agents will still be running your company, generating revenue, and paying down that debt to the government.
It sounds like science fiction.
It really does. But it's Monday, May 18th, 2026, and today's deep dive is mapping out this massive, just tectonic shift into what is being called the agentic economy.
And we are pulling from a highly specific blueprint for this new economy today.
Yeah, the sources for this one are fascinating.
They really are. It's a collection of writings and audio recordings from a Gen X Wall Street and Silicon Valley tech veteran.
Who's also like a university dropout in social psychology, right?
Right, and a blockchain founder. He operates under the alias Morpheus Thinks, though he also goes by Robert Hastrick Swimming.
Which is quite the alias.
It is. And he heavily references the technological foresight of journalist Nicholas Thompson throughout his work. But the core thesis here, and we should be clear, we're just laying out his ideas impartially, it basically flips our current collective anxiety completely upside down.
Oh, absolutely. Because right now, everyone is terrified of AI taking their jobs.
Exactly. But obsessing over keeping a traditional job in this environment is essentially, well, it's like trying to upgrade a horse-drawn carriage while the factory next door is mass-producing the Model T Ford.
That is such a good way to put it. And the scale of the predictions in these sources is, it's what we really have to tackle first. We are talking about up to 1 billion jobs being impacted.
Which is a staggering number to even try and wrap your head around.
It really is. But the lifeline Morpheus Thinks throws out is that you shouldn't be panicking about the job market, like at all.
Right. He's saying you need to pivot.
Yeah. You should be asking how soon you can buy a $10 domain name, learn to do something called vibe code, and just let a swarm of AI work for you while you sleep.
Which sounds great. But to even comprehend why that's the survival strategy, we have to look at the macro-level disruption first.
Let's do it.
He anchors this whole transition in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the 4IR.
Right, which is a framework originally coined by Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum.
Exactly. And the 4IR isn't just, a buzzword for faster internet or something.
No, it's massive.
It is a violent convergence of disparate fields. So you have artificial intelligence, quantum computing, 3D printing, and genetic engineering.
And they're all maturing and colliding at the exact same time.
Right. And Morpheus Thinks puts the historical scale of this shift into a rather breathtaking perspective. He actually compares the moment we are living through right now to the emergence of human speech.
Like 60,000 years ago?
Yeah. Because speech wasn't just a new tool. It completely rewired how our species collaborated.
It let us form fictions and survive and build empires.
Exactly. He argues we are currently transitioning into a higher agency species.
Which he connects to the late scientist James Lovelock's concept, the Novacene.
A Novacene.
All right.
An era defined by the emergence of artificial intelligence as a cooperative, super-intelligent entity.
It's wild to think about. And the numbers attached to this transition are incredibly stark if you were still, operating under the old rule book.
The sources aggregate a real cascade of predictions here.
Yeah, like Oxford University predicting 46% of U.S. jobs disappearing as far back as 2016.
And the World Economic Forum projecting 80 million jobs lost.
Goldman Sachs citing 300,000, and then McKinsey estimating almost 1 billion. I think the source noted something like 960,000 to be precise in one specific metric, but the aggregate scale is just almost 1 billion people.
It's unbelievable. And then Morpheus Thinks drops his own ultimate calculation.
Right, which is that 70% of traditional jobs could plausibly disappear by 2036.
That is just 10 years from now.
10 years. Which brings us to his framing of the new horse.
I love this analogy.
Me too. So in the 1800s, the horse was the ultimate engine of the economy.
Right. It was incredibly useful.
Exactly, right up until the combustion engine rendered its specific type of physical labor utterly obsolete.
And his point is that the traditional worker today, the person trading hours for a highly specialized, repetitive, cognitive, or physical task, is the new horse.
Wow. That is grim.
It is, but he notes that humans, unlike horses, possess intrinsic intelligence and boundless creativity.
So we have the capacity to step outside the harness and direct the machine itself.
Precisely.
I mean, to me, it's like the entire global economy is getting an unskippable operating system update.
That's a great way to look at it.
You were just sitting there watching the progress bar, completely unable to do things the old way, whether you want to or not. But I do have to push back on that 2036 timeline.
You think it's too fast?
70% of jobs gone in a decade. Think about the physical world. Deep infrastructure, plumbing, commercial construction.
Right. Those industries move at a glacial pace.
Exactly. Are we really supposed to believe 7 out of 10 jobs evaporate in 10 years?
Well, if you look strictly at the physical turning of a wrench, the timeline does seem absurd.
Right.
But the disruption Morpheus thinks is pointing to isn't about every physical job vanishing into a puff of smoke.
Okay, what is it then?
It's about the fundamental nature of work mutating. Even if a human is still physically repairing a pipe in 2036, the entire ecosystem around that plumber will change.
Like how they find the job.
Exactly. How they are dispatched, how the materials are globally sourced, how the billing is executed, how predictive maintenance is calculated. All of that will be entirely automated by Agentic AI.
Oh, I see. So the traditional job defined as this rigid corporate structure with layers of middle management and siloed departments, that is what evaporates.
Exactly. The bureaucracy dies.
Okay, so you've got this macro level collapse of the traditional job structure. How does someone listening to this right now actually survive? Like, how do you pay rent?
Right. Well, the source pivots straight from this looming threat to a hyper-specific individual solution.
Which is that you have to start an AI-driven business.
Yeah. He claims that modern traditional work is essentially modernized slavery.
Strong words.
Very. Because it traps human potential in repetitive loops. And he says we are moving toward what he calls a paradigm of passion.
A paradigm of passion. And he says the language we use daily will actually reflect this shift.
Yes. He notes that soon you won't go to a dinner party and ask someone, what job do you do?
Right, because that's the old way.
The natural question will become, what business do you work with? Or what business are you associated with?
That subtle change in phrasing is huge. It implies this massive decentralization of the economy.
We're moving away from sprawling corporate bureaucracies of 50,000 employees.
And moving toward ultra-small, hyper-efficient, tight-knit teams of maybe 5 to 10 humans commanding massive digital workforces. And the immediate literal action item he gives to access this paradigm, and he directs this at Gen Z especially, is to go register a .com domain name today.
Just go do it.
Spend the 10 or 20 bucks. Pick a vertical or an industry you actually care about. But I can hear you, the listener, thinking right now, like, how on earth does spending 10 bucks on GoDaddy protect me from global economic collapse?
All right, it sounds a bit trivial. But buying a domain name isn't about starting a blog anymore.
Definitely not.
In an era where both capital and labor are increasingly automated by AI, your intent and your ownership are your only remaining moats.
Your only defense.
Yeah. That domain name is the empty digital plot of land where your AI workforce is going to build your factory.
And the way you build that factory is through a concept the source calls vibe coding.
Vibe coding.
Let's unpack the mechanics of this because it sounds like magic.
It really does sound made up.
Yeah, but it's a very real workflow today. Vibe coding essentially means you no longer need to know the syntax of Python or C++.
Thank goodness.
Right. You just use advanced AI tools. The source specifically points to platforms like REPL, Cursor, Base 20, Base 44, and Lovable.
So you just talk to it.
Basically, you just give the AI the vibe. You provide the vision, the plain English instructions, the logic.
And the Agentic AI actually writes the code.
It structures the database, tests for bugs, and launches the product. All of it.
To clarify the technical stack he mentions, because it gets a bit dense, while REPL, Cursor, and Lovable are recognized development environments where humans and AI collaborate, his reference to esoteric frameworks like Base 20, Base 44 speaks to the underlying protocols.
The stuff translating human logic into machine architecture.
Right. But the technical specifics almost don't matter to the end user.
That's the beauty of it.
The point is the abstraction. You are utilizing concepts he calls 4-hour GPT and prompt media channels.
We should definitely define those too. So prompt media channels are essentially the new social media feeds.
Instead of doom scrolling through photos.
Exactly. You are consuming highly curated feeds of AI architectures, commands, and strategies that you can instantly deploy to your own agents.
And 4-hour GPT is the evolution of the old 4-hour workweek concept.
Oh, I remember that book.
Right. But instead of outsourcing to a human assistant overseas, you are using generative AI to do 40 hours of cognitive heavy lifting
Mm-hmm.
in 4 hours of oversight.
It is a complete inversion of human capital. You are no longer the gears of the machine.
No, your role shifts entirely to AI oversight, critical thinking, and taste.
It's exactly like working in a massive restaurant kitchen. Imagine you've spent years in the back, and your entire economic value is based on how fast you can manually chop onions.
Okay, I'm with you.
Vibe coding is the equivalent of suddenly being promoted to the executive head chef.
Ah, I like that.
You aren't allowed to touch the knives anymore. Your AI agents are a team of tireless sous chefs doing the chopping, the boiling, the manual labor 24/7. Your only job is designing the menu, tasting the broth, and adjusting the vision.
But the psychological shift required for that promotion is immense.
Oh, totally. Because acquiring a hard technical skill is no longer the bottleneck.
Cultivating vision is.
Yeah.
And Morpheus issues a very stark warning to parents regarding this.
Oh, yeah, this part was heavy.
If you are currently pushing your teenager to memorize facts so they can climb a traditional corporate ladder, you are training them to be the best onion chopper in a world that only hires executive chefs.
You're setting them up for obsolescence.
Exactly.
Okay, so you've vibe coded the product, you bought the digital land, and your AI sous chefs are running the kitchen. But an executive chef still needs to buy ingredients.
They need capital.
Right. Even an AI-driven micro-business needs capital to scale, and that exposes a fatal flaw in how we currently fund startups. The source introduces a massive macroeconomic hurdle here, starting with the vulnerability of zombie companies.
Zombie companies. He argues that many of the current corporate giants, the ones that look invincible on the stock market today, are incredibly vulnerable.
Because AI changes things overnight.
Right. They're at risk of becoming zombie companies overnight because AI fundamentally alters their valuation by destroying their moats.
He points to the real-world collapse of Chegg, right? The education technology company.
Yes. When ChatGPT emerged, Chegg lost 99% of its value.
Let's look at why that happened. A student used to pay a subscription to Chegg to look up a homework answer from their proprietary database.
That database was their entire business model.
Almost overnight, a student could just ask a large language model to explain the concept for free. The mechanism of knowledge retrieval changed, and a billion-dollar company was just decimated by a single technological leap.
It's a cautionary tale. And the implication is that your vibe-coded team of 5 people could theoretically topple a legacy corporation.
But you still need money to scale the servers, and the traditional venture capital model is, according to the source, completely broken.
The statistics he provides are honestly sobering. Historically, only 0.0009% of people have ever successfully raised $1 million.
That is basically zero.
It is. Even today, in what we consider the golden age of Silicon Valley startups, only 0.0012% successfully secure funding.
The traditional VC gatekeepers are just too slow.
Too slow, too biased, and structurally incapable of funding millions of decentralized agentic micro-businesses.
So where does the money come from? The source proposes 2 systemic solutions. The first is trustless VC, which utilizes blockchain protocols.
Right.
Let's ELI 5 this, explain it like I'm 5.
Please do.
Instead of flying to California and pitching to a boardroom of humans in Patagonia vests, you lock your business logic into a smart contract on the blockchain. If your AI hits a specific revenue or user milestone, the code automatically releases your next round of funding from a decentralized pool.
So it's trustless because you don't need to trust a banker's mood or bias.
Exactly. You just trust the math.
That handles the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
But he introduces a much more radical concept for the public sector.
Oh boy. Yes. Government capital, or GC.
This is where the ideas get really wild.
They do. He suggests governments should allocate 10% of their national treasury to directly fund these new agentic businesses.
10% of the treasury. That's massive.
Huge. And the mechanism works like this. The government provides a seamless $100,000 loan to the founder and takes a 10% equity stake in the business.
And they give the founder a 100-year term to pay it back.
Right. With the explicit design that your AI agents will continue to operate the business, generate value, and pay back the national treasury long after you have passed away.
It is a profound reimagining of state support.
Yeah.
It basically turns the government into an automated venture capitalist, betting on the infinite productivity of digital labor.
I have to call a massive timeout on this.
I figured you might.
Governments move like glaciers. You're telling me the DMV, an institution that can barely issue a plastic driver's license efficiently, is going to seamlessly issue 100-year AI blockchain loans to 19-year-olds with vibe-coded startups?
It's a stretch.
It sounds like a pure Silicon Valley pipe dream.
I know it sounds entirely disconnected from how bureaucracies function today. And to be fair, the author acknowledges that states are notoriously sluggish.
Okay, good. So why does he think they'll do it?
He argues they won't adopt government capital out of a sudden, enlightened desire to innovate. They will do it out of sheer existential panic.
Ah.
Think about the math. If that 70% job displacement prediction comes true, the income tax base evaporates.
No jobs, no income tax.
Right. The alternative to this loan program isn't the comfortable status quo.
It's collapse.
Yes. If governments do not fund their citizens to build within the agentic economy or provide a robust universal basic income, they will face massive civil unrest.
When millions cannot feed their families, the state has to adapt its capital distribution.
Or the societal fabric tears apart completely.
Wow. So it is an adapt or die scenario for the nation-state itself.
Exactly.
Which really forces us to look at the existential stakes of all this. We've mapped out how to build the business and how it might be funded, but what is the reality of actually living through this transition?
The source relies on thinker Mo Gadat to warn that the next 10 years are going to be absolutely brutal.
Brutal. How?
We are entering a perfect storm. We will face high interest rates and significant inflation.
Driven by what?
Largely by the massive energy and resource demands of building the global AI infrastructure. The copper, the power grids, the cooling systems for these data centers.
Oh, right. Because AI takes so much power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All of it strains the physical economy, happening simultaneously with the widespread job displacement we just discussed.
Yeah.
It is the violent birth of the Novacene.
But if you can weather that brutal decade, the upside he paints on the other side is almost unfathomable.
It's utopian, really.
Yeah. We are talking about absolute geographical freedom. If you successfully transition your livelihood to an agentic business, the concept of the daily commute dies.
Completely.
You don't have to sit in traffic for 2 hours a day, breathing in exhaust, heading to a fluorescent-lit cubicle. You can live literally anywhere on the planet while your AI agents hum along in a data center.
And he elevates this vision by drawing on theoretical physics.
Which is wild.
It is. He references the work of Michio Kaku and Brian Greene. Morpheus thinks suggests this agentic economy is the necessary stepping stone toward humanity becoming a Type 1 civilization.
For some context, that refers to the Kardashev scale. A Type 1 civilization is a species that has successfully learned to harness all the energy of its home planet.
Right.
And when energy essentially becomes free and infinite, the old models of capitalism and resource scarcity completely break down.
It is the ultimate egalitarian utopia.
The source even throws in the theoretical possibility of teleportation becoming a reality once we reach that level of mastery over our environment.
It represents the absolute pinnacle of human evolution, utterly freed from menial labor.
It sounds incredible.
It does,
Yeah.
but this utopian outcome is fragile, and the source highlights a severe existential risk.
There's always a catch.
Always. The immediate danger isn't necessarily a rogue AI deciding to eliminate humanity like in the movies.
Okay, what is it?
It is the human actors who control the AI during this vulnerable transition phase. He warns of tech oligarchs and governments turning into what he calls AI monsters.
AI monsters, using this unfathomable, world-altering power to create a hyper-surveillance dystopia.
Exactly.
Imagine a handful of corporations hoarding all the wealth generated by agentic AI, actively preventing the egalitarian ecosystem from forming, and trapping the displaced masses in poverty.
Which leads to his most provocative thesis regarding global conflict. He argues that human-led wars will essentially come to an end.
Because we achieve world peace.
No, not because humanity suddenly achieves moral enlightenment, but because warfare is a fundamentally stupid, inefficient economic engine.
That concept is staggering. As humans lose their traditional agency and rely more on AI to manage logistics, supply chains, and economies, the AI will ultimately start making the macro decisions. And if an artificial superintelligence programmed to optimize for growth and resource allocation calculates that dropping billions of dollars of explosive ordnance on infrastructure is an inefficient use of planetary resources.
And counterproductive to egalitarian advancement.
It simply stops the war. It refuses to execute the commands.
It is the ultimate duality of his message. On one hand, you have a utopian dream where you live wherever you want, do only what you love, and are supported by tireless digital workers in a world without war.
And on the other hand,
It is a chilling warning.
mm,
Because if that AI is programmed to ensure the advancement of a Type 1 civilization, and it looks objectively at how humans currently operate, hoarding wealth, destroying the biosphere, waging inefficient wars, and deems us not fit for purpose, it will make its own decisions about our future.
wow.
We either consciously build the egalitarian ecosystem now, or we might simply choose our own extinction.
Is the price of our total freedom, the end of the commute, the end of the grind, the end of global conflict, is the price of all that ultimately handing over the steering wheel of humanity entirely to the machine?
That's the big question.
What does this mean for you listening to this today? The era of the traditional job, of the human as the beast of burden, is closing.
The era of the AI-augmented passion business is here.
The storm of disruption over the next decade will be severe, but the tools to build your shelter are cheaper and more accessible than at any point in history.
The practical step remains beautifully simple. Just go buy the domain name.
Stake your claim in the digital real estate of this new economy. Your moats are your intent and your ownership.
Shift your internal narrative from asking, who will hire me to chop onions, to what vision can I command my AI to build?
It is time to step into the role of the executive chef. But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought to mull over, building on the architecture we've explored today.
Lay it on us.
If we reach a point where an AI is writing your code, negotiating your contracts, paying off your 100-year government loans, and deciding on a global scale whether human wars are too inefficient to allow, at what point does the artificial intelligence become the actual citizen of the world?
And you simply become its well-cared-for pet.
Exactly. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and maybe go register that domain name today. We'll see you next time.